The way I typically approach like difficult decisions or difficult things I have to do in my life is probably a bit of a mess historically. Um, if you kind of break down at its core what goes into making a tough decision, right? Maybe it's you're gonna quit your job and you're gonna go follow your passion, or maybe it's something as simple as you're gonna start exercising. And today's the day, right? Instead of sitting on the couch and watching TV, you're gonna go for a run. In that process, at its core, there's two pieces to it. There's one component which is making the decision, right? Coming to the conclusion that yes, I should quit my job, or yes, I should go for the run, or no, right? There's kind of that analysis and decision. And then there's actually executing it, right? There's taking the action to do the thing you said you were going to do, to follow through on the decision that you made. And as I say, historically, I've probably intertwined those two functions. It's become like a very jumbled thing where it's if you think of it in business terms, there's this whole idea of agile. I kind of think of it more in that. There's no structure to it. There's no set process. There's no segregation of duties. There's no, gates to be followed throughout it. It's just all a big mess of thinking about what the right decision is at the same time of thinking about, am I actually willing to do the right thing? And then even if you make a decision, you question it and you get a little wishy-washy on it, and maybe you don't have the willpower to actually execute it, and you start questioning that decision you made, throughout the whole thing. And it's just a big jumbled mess. And, the hope is you get to a good place, but who knows? As I think of it now, and perhaps what it should be, and what I'm trying to make it, what I'm trying to follow and execute on, is a clearer segregation of duties, if you will, for as kind of a metaphor, in the mind for that. So if you think of those two core components, the first one is making the decision. The second one is executing on it. The mindset, the approach, the principles you follow for those two acts, those two fundamental parts of it, should be different, and they should be separate, in my opinion. The first comes first, which is making the decision. And as I say, that's a very analytical, it's a very logical, it's very thoughtful, it's a very objective, ideally, process where you're never really certain, right? We don't know in a lot of these cases what the quote unquote right answer is, if there even is a right answer. It's very much like the truth, right? Is the truth a real thing, or is it, if you keep digging it, you get more and different, but it's what you aspire for. So you're aspiring to make the best decision you can based on whatever values or framework you're using. And you want to be, again, as objective, look at all the data, look from all different perspectives, take in all the inputs, whether it be emotional ones, whether it be identity-driven issues, whether it be people's opinion of you, whether it be financial, all the stuff. You want to take it all in and try and weight it accurately, run the math as soundly, PhD level math as you can to get to that decision. You won't be certain, but you make the best decision you can based on that analysis, and that's your decision. You can go back and revisit that decision if it feels warranted, right? You don't want to do it for every little thing and constantly be rechecking it. But if there's certain kind of tentpole, big ticket items that you feel like if that happens, that changes things. Maybe you're getting ready to quit your job and you're going to leave, and then you get promoted and you have a whole new job, a whole new function or role. You're getting paid way more. You're much happier in it. Obviously, that would cause you possibly to revisit the decision. But you don't want to go back and question things that you've already run the math on and nothing's changed. You don't just need to keep checking that math over and over again. You make your decision. You've done that. Now it gets passed to the next function. It gets passed to the next group in the organization, if you will. There's a segregation of duties, right? The one component, that job is to be analytical, question, thorough, really look at it all. Difficult, struggle to get to that decision. But then you make a decision. When it gets passed off, the other function, right? The executing function, very simple. Not easy, but very simple. Follow that decision. That decision has been made. Trust in it. Trust you ran the math correctly. Trust you were thorough and analytical in how you came to that decision. Now be certain. Now this function, different principles, different guidance. This function's job is to be absolutely certain, right? Cold, hard, logic, certain, go. This is what I'm going to do. The phrase I like to say to myself is there's only one way through it now. I've made the decision. I trust in that decision. Now there's only one way to just do it, to just go through it. Don't waste time looking at cognitive outs and different things that your subconscious mind may try and throw at you to get you to go back and question that decision, right? If you're thinking about going for a run, you've already baked into your decision that your ankle hurts a little bit and that it's cold out and that, it's towards the end of the month and you could start next month. You've thought about all that. The other team did that work. They considered all of that. And the decision still came back, go for the run. So don't waste your time with that bullshit now. Your mind may want you to, but that decision has been made. So you have to almost say back to yourself, the phrase I use, there's only one way through it now. There's nothing to be questioned anymore here. Not by this team, not by this group. Their job isn't to question. Their job is to go, because we can be certain about the things we can control. And we can control if we execute on this, if we go for that run, if we quit that job. That we can control. So we can say with absolute certainty, we are gonna go do that thing. We're not gonna think about any other options. We're not gonna think about any of the cognitive outs. We're not gonna think about any of the stories our mind tries to tell us to question that. It's separate. That team does not do that. That's above their pay grade. And you think of it in that segregation of duty way, and I think that allows you to make better decisions and actually execute on them much more effectively. And the two have to go hand in hand. There has to be trust in both sides. You have to trust in the fact that the decision was run in the best, most objective way, and that team will reassess it. Again, if something big changes, you can kick it back to that team and they can reassess that decision. But in lieu of that, when it gets kicked to the execution team, to the mental toughness team, as I would say, right? Their job is just to go do it, execute. There's only one way. Don't even consider anything else. You get it done. And you put those two things together, those two teams, when they're working effectively together, doing their jobs effectively, that's what helps you to think better and be better.